All right, everybody. Welcome back to Fish to Fortune. This is Fish, and this is my poker challenge where I'm trying to go from the bottom stakes on Ignition all the way up to the top, starting at 2 cent, 5 cent for 6 max Texas Hold'em. Of course, I'll be mixing in some other games too, but this is the start. And I've got not the best session to review for you guys today, at least as far as my performance goes. And it mostly comes down to a couple of bad decisions that I made, one of which being playing in the first place. So this session I recorded playing late at night, which I don't usually do, and that ultimately resulted in me losing my quality of play much faster than I otherwise would. And I had intended for this session just to be 30 minutes long, and I was up at around the 30-minute mark, but not by much, and decided that I wanted to play, one more decent hand, and I didn't get to play another decent hand for almost 20 more minutes after that, and ended up losing almost all of my buy-in for this game in the last hand. So we'll go over that. We'll go over how you think I played. I'll go over what I was thinking, especially on the last hand. I'll go over a few of the hands before then, but you'll notice me fast-forwarding through a lot more stuff this episode just because a lot of time I was card dead. And the rest of the time, for the hands that I don't go over, it usually just ends up with me either taking down the blinds, or there's a couple of hands where maybe I made it to the flop and just had to give it up. Some of those I probably could have been a little more aggressive, but again, once I was past that 30-minute mark, my decision-making really started to go downhill. So I lost my aggression, and then I got it all back for the last hand when I shouldn't. We'll start here with a pair of tens. This is the first real hand for me to play in this session, and I'm happy to raise a high pair like this up to 3 blinds, even in, I'm only in middle position here, not too worried about how I'm thinking about my position size, relative position for, open raises here. I am working on adjusting my pre-flop strategy. This is kind of the major component as I start here on the lower stakes, to be a bit wider on the button and a bit narrower up at the top in things like the blinds. And we get a flop 7 ace king rainbow, and I don't love seeing the ace and the king. I think I just get a little intimidated seeing them out there with 2 other folks in this pot. I feel it's pretty likely that someone's got an ace or a king, or you could see queen jack, queen 10. Well, not likely a 10 because I've got it, but I was a little concerned about that. So I end up checking back rather than doing a c-bet, when perhaps because of my position with, this is almost an under pair here, that betting might have been better, knock somebody out of the pot. And then the king pairs, and now I'm definitely worried about something. Although in hindsight, I really should have just been betting. I probably could have gotten these guys to fold and taken this down. So we get 2. Now my hand is counterfeit, right? I went from 2 pair 10s kings to now 10s aces. Aces kings with a 10 kicker. I just don't feel like I have anything left here. I've been run out. 2 wisely bets. Maybe I call this, but I think I was fine folding here. The better strategy would have been more aggression before the river, try to get people out. And I think this is something you've probably been hearing me say relatively frequently in just the few episodes I've done so far, is I need to be more aggressive. I need to be more aggressive. I need to be more aggressive. And I need to be better at knowing when to be more aggressive, which is most of the time. But when we go over the final hand, you'll see that there are signs where you should know better. We're going to get a couple more hands here after this one. We get ace-10, offsuit, in the big blind. This isn't really a great hand for the big blind. So I'm kind of marginally kind of raising here for me, and 3, 4, 8, 1 heart. I probably have a decent hand here unless someone's got a pair, but I check back. I'm kind of happy to let it check around. Again, in hindsight, betting there probably a good idea. But we get to the turn, we get a pair of 3s. I can make people think maybe I've got a set. Well, I've got trips, I should say, or I'm more confident in, let's say, a flush draw for spades, and that just takes it down. And then after that, immediately we get 7s in the small blind, which this is a very good pair to have. I've been doing well with it lately. And I'll raise it, trying to make myself be that little bit more aggressive rather than limp in. 2 a6. I've probably got the better hand here. Then you get 7s and 6s. Now you have to worry about someone having a 6. But I think that's just what that bet signified, and take that too. Ultimately, fine play, but nothing particularly amazing from my play so far. I do think generally that my quality of play this whole session, even though I do say I do better at the beginning, overall is less than the previous session just because of that timing. So one of my focuses will be making sure I'm only playing when I'm sharp. Maybe when I'm better at poker, I can broaden my window for when I'm capable of playing, but for right now, gotta stay when I'm feeling my best. Next hand here is King 8 suited, and this is probably not a hand I'm going to be calling too much from in earlier positions here, but we flop top pair on a pretty connected board, and then we get an ace after that. Don't love to see the ace. We get raised here. It should have been kind of a sign. If I'm not, that makes me not the aggressor here, and that probably puts our opponent here on the better hand. And when I see him put out the half pot bet here, I'm thinking he's probably got the flush. I don't necessarily know why. Honestly, a half pot with the flush is perhaps a little small, but I didn't want to be trapped by the flush. We end up here with ace-4 offsuit in sort of a middle position. Again, this is marginal behavior for where I should be, but at least I don't go whole hog for it. And then we go card dead for a little while. I'm reasonably happy with at least the hands that I chose to play, though I should perhaps be doing more limping with marginal hands than raising. It's hard for me to balance that with the need for more aggression, and if you hear that, that's my dog sleeping. Ace queen, we take down the blinds. 6-8 suited, we're not going to play. Even on the button. 5-6, also don't want to play. Ace 5, suited. This I'm more happy to raise, but we just take down the blinds. And then we end up big blind with 4-9 offsuit, which I'm only playing if it checks around. I would never raise this. Ace, king, 8. I certainly don't want to be betting into that with 4-9. So I check it back, and then we pair the 9. And then we pair the 4. But at this point, I think any bet would have thrown this guy. But I was surprised when he made the call, because he was playing so passively, but we take it down. So at least we got a little bit of value out of that. But more betting probably would have been better, and just, if he wasn't going to play, pick up what was on the table without having to wait for the river to show us that we had indeed the best hand. This next hand that's going to be worth talking about is Queen 10. So this 8-10 here is not worth playing. Here we get to Queen 10 in the small blind. Which is decent from middle position, but from the blinds, not amazing. But 8, 9, 10, queen, we're on for a straight here. Well, 7, 8, 9, 10. But a jack gives us the queen high straight, which is the nuts on this board. And we are multi-way. We've got some betters. Now we land the jack. So now we've got the nuts. I don't want to scare people out, so I do a half pot bet, I should say. Here on the turn, get one fold, and our opponent here is kind of short stacked. I really should have just done a pot bet to get him all in, and I only did a half pot to see, that he would call. But we at least get to take that hand down. It's nice to have one hand that felt good in this session. And that's when I should have stopped playing. That was just over 30 minutes of play. I'm up like 14, 15 big blinds, which, is nothing amazing, but that's 30 bigs an hour at 15 at half an hour. I mean, and it's when I said I would be done. But no, I decide to keep playing. And this was the biggest mistake that I made in this entire session, was to keep playing here. I knew that I was at my time limit. I just got that greed in me to want to hit a little bit more for the take home. And that just ruined my session, because I spent 20 more minutes slowly grinding down my profit, waiting for that one nice hand that I could play and end the session on that would get me a bit more, at least, over $1. And the news is that it's not coming. It's just not coming. I'm not going to get it. And so I really have to keep in mind as I go forward in this challenge playing poker that I need to be sticking to those session limits, because I'm setting them for a reason. I'm setting them because when I'm not in the midst of the game, I am thinking better and more clearly about my state of mind. And that state of mind is ultimately what makes you a good poker player or not. But here we are coming up on the last hand of the session, where everything goes wrong. I'm still up 20 cents, and we hit jacks. this is the best pair I've had all night, and I'm looking for some action. I'm desperate for some action, and that's a problem. And I get a call and then a raise to 50 cents, and that should have told me that player 2 has something good. And I see 9 3 10. I see 9 10 jack. I'm on for a straight, 2 spades. I've got a spade, could see a flush. I've got an overpair, and I get bet into almost for pot, for call it 3/4 pot. But I've got a good overpair. Now we've got 2 pairs. That's not great. There goes my flush. There goes my straight. All I've got now is an overpair. And that's when I'm thinking in my head, I should probably give this up. But, now I'm down to 397. I was up at the start of this hand. I really don't want to give it up. I've got an overpair. It's bottom stakes. People do crazy things. I'll make the call. And then a king comes out. And, 2 hearts, 2 spades. There's no flush draws. You're not really making a straight out of this. What's he got? But I'm thinking in my head, he's got a king, because he's been betting like crazy, and I'm like, maybe he doesn't, and I make the call. And there they are. They're the kings. And there goes the buy-in. So, pretty poor decision making from me there when I knew on the river, honestly even before the river, but you got to make that call with jacks. So when I knew by the river and the betting my opponent was doing that, I should be folding, and I didn't, because I wanted to leave with more profit than I had 20 minutes earlier, which is just a really, really poor decision by me. So that's a pretty disappointing end for this session, but overall things are honestly still going well in this challenge. I'm still up $11. We're only played 325 hands tracked, so I've played a bit more, but before I had my tracking software going, I'm at 325, and we're at 28 bigs per 100 in that time frame. That's a pretty fine win rate, even though we're at micro stakes. Considering I'm new, I'm not terribly upset at that. It's just pretty far from the stratospheric 71 I was at the end of last session. But we still only got $19 to go until I can consider going up a stake, and hopefully we'll get there soon. I look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thanks for watching.